as simple as possible. The least amount of work I need to do post, the better.
Point A to point B.
Yes, get in, get out. Let's see how you are.
Test, check, test. 1, 2, 3,
Love it.
4.
There you go. Such a good sounding voice. All right, everybody, here we're back now for the Quick and Dirty 30 number 2. We're recording this on Monday, November 11th, which is Remembrance Day. So we had our nice service here in Saskatoon.
Yeah, it was amazing. I was at Sask Place today.
One of the best and one of the biggest ones. We just kind of wanted to talk a little bit about things we've watched, things we've experienced that do make us feel grateful to be living as good as we're living now. Myself, I'm kind of going through some personal stuff, and no matter how bad it gets, I still have to remind myself that it was really bad for a lot of people for a while.
Yeah, the only way I can think of it is that my generation, your generation, that has the sense of nostalgia that we do is we're riding on the back of giants.
100%.
And those giants were 17-year-old boys for the most part.
Yeah.
And so you got to put that into context. Like one of the nicest things I seen this morning at the service at Sask Place. We're in Saskatoon, Saskatchewan, by the way.
And it's 1,000 below zero today.
It sucks. Was the amount of old timers, and I said it respectfully, that were still wearing their medals and their uniforms. And
yeah, there's a great picture I seen somewhere on social media where it was an animated one, but it was an older gentleman, a little more decrepit, but his shadow was him as a soldier kind of thing. It's like, once a badass, always a badass kind of thing. And I was like, 100%.
Yeah, and we're kind of geeky guys in the sense of movies and collectibles and comics and stuff. There's a great poster that I'd love to get if I can ever find it. It shows Superman and his dog Crypto. It shows their back, and they're looking up at a poster of U.S. servicemen.
Okay,
and there's no words there, but it's kind of like it's Superman looking at his heroes.
When about that one come out? Is that like a newer version?
No, it's just like it's a photo that an artist drew up, and America. But aside from all that stuff, it's a cool photo of Superman looking up to somebody, and it just happens to be a serviceman or woman. Yeah.
So I think part of it was we wanted to talk about is like the shows and movies and what that we have affected us, and things that I watch every year around this time. And the big one that I think everybody needs to watch is Band of Brothers.
Yeah, you were saying you just binge watched that.
I did the other day, and it's about 10 episodes. It's HBO series, so they do get a little darker, which is good because they need to show the good, the bad, and the ugly. And I think everybody really needs to really sit down and watch that show, and especially the special features after they sit down with the actual guys these are based on.
Cool. Yeah.
And just hearing the stories they've been through and how it still affects them to this day. The one guy talks about how he made it through the Battle of the Bulge, and whenever it's a cold night, he still thinks, well, thank God I'm still not there anymore. He's still always thinking about it. And I think a lot of people don't realize how long this stuff sticks with you. Like it's something that's going to affect you for the rest of your life.
Yeah, absolutely. Like there's so many, like just the 5-second view here is the Platoon, back in the day. Good Morning Vietnam, MASH, the TV show MASH. When I was a kid, about the Vietnam War, I didn't understand what was going on. But
Korean War.
Yeah, Korean War. Thank you.
Yeah.
I didn't understand what was going on. Like those things stick in my mind. Apocalypse Now.
That's a dark one.
Yeah, of course. For me, in modern times, I think just Saving Private Ryan. That first 20 minutes.
I think you've mentioned this before.
Yeah, that I seen a documentary about it with Spielberg, and some of the veterans that were alive at that time said, "Yeah, that's the most realistic portrayal that they've ever seen."
Yeah, it was hell on earth. It was ridiculous, and that's why I like to bring up. Like it's such a small thing, but like no matter what you think you're having a bad day, you got cut off in traffic, you whatever. It'll never be as bad as these guys had it. Guys and girls, I want to make sure I say that
for
too.
sure. Yeah, there's a lot of that. And we're all touched by some military in our life. Like I was just in Ontario to visit my grandmother, and I was going through my grandpa's things, and I brought them home with me as his 25-year serviceman medal, or something from the Polish Hall that they gave out to servicemen, and it's not a medal, but it's just something that shows
he
was involved in it in one way or another. My family directly, especially World War II, we come from Poland, and my great uncle George, which is Wojtek means George in Polish.
Oh, cool.
He was in the war, and the one thing that I always took is that he never spoke about the war. And my grandmother said he'll never speak about it. So I take that he probably seen some shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and those guys were a different type of guy too, like the strong silent type, if you will. So that's obviously going to affect them a little harder, kind of thing.
I can't imagine, because in where they were in Poland, that's exactly where some of the Holocaust took place, where people were, bad things happened. We don't have to go into detail, but it's just to broad stroke it. Bad things happened.
Yeah,
there.
man. I just finished watching a series on Netflix, The Devil Next Door. And and I had no idea this is a real thing, where there was a guy in Cleveland, your average immigrant, worked at Ford for like his 40 years, whatever, retired, had kids, had grandkids, and then as the Berlin Wall started going down and East and West Germany and all the KGB files started coming out, they found that he was actually one of the guards at one of the gas chambers. It's just crazy story. It's done really well, to the point where there are times where you're like, I think this isn't the guy. I think they've got the wrong one, because he says he's innocent the entire time and pleads that you've got the wrong guy and all that. And then it's a really again a series that affects you, and I still think about it. I've only watched like last week, but every day I'm just like, man, that was an intense show to watch. I think everybody should check that one out too. On the military side, my father's in the Air Force, recently retired.
Yeah.
I was lucky enough not to have to see him go to war.
Right.
He did his basic training in Turkey.
Oh, wow.
And always tells a story of he was going back to base with a bunch of guys, and they were maybe a little later than they were supposed to be, and he was just walking in the night, and you hear the gun cock, and so he just kind of takes his badge, just puts it over his shoulder so the guy can see, Canadian or whatever.
Yeah.
And the guy takes off, kind of thing. But that's pretty scary. That's
real life. Like the worst thing I had to worry about today is, letting my car warm up.
Yeah,
that's the worst part of my day today.
Yeah, if Big Red was going to start or not, that was my concerns.
Right.
Another one I want to kind of bring up a little bit is just the stuff that I think we take for granted, and in the sense of things that are still going on today that I know is really hard. Like even like when you read the news, my God, there's a lot of shit news in the world.
Yeah.
But I still think, myself included, we brush it under the carpet a little too much.
I think you have to, because if you let everything in the world sink into your soul, even, you'll just sit down and do nothing.
Yeah.
Because I don't think we are as civilized as we think we are in who we are. We look at some of the things that you hear going on in these, I don't know, overseas in the sand countries in Iraq and these, what they're doing to human beings, the ethnic cleansing that's going on in Africa. And you think to yourself, I've just watched a video on YouTube about, forming concrete walls.
Yeah.
And there's people over there that are right at this moment
dealing with
things that we can't imagine. And we're so civilized.
And I think if maybe people talked about it more, it would get people to want to do something more. I think that maybe that's a little bit part of it too, where it's so easy to not do anything about it. It's so easy to hit next page.
Right.
That you can just be like, it's not happening to me.
But here's the weird thing, I think, is that, what was it, this summer, that, I don't know the name of it, but that cathedral in Paris burnt down.
Yeah. Oh.
Whatever it was.
Notre Dame, wasn't it?
Maybe. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'd be lying if I said it. And every billionaire on the planet donated $1 million.
Right.
For hey, let's just say it's just brick and wood. And all these other things are going on the planet, and no one's just like, there's silence.
Yeah. Like, DiCaprio is a big donator now to, getting the world, trying to get the world cleaned back up and global warming and whatnot. And I mean, it wouldn't take much for these guys to open up their checkbook and, all of a sudden people have food today.
Yeah, when someone like Bill Gates, and I don't have much much leg to stand on here in the sense where I know what it's like to be rich. I don't, but when you're worth $90 billion or something, you know what? You can give $10 billion away and still be worth $80 billion.
Yeah. You're still doing okay.
You're doing all right.
Yeah, you probably still have enough to put gas in the car.
So it's like there's something in that we don't understand of why it's not changing.
Yeah, that's a good point to bring. And I think it's even something as simple as, like, right now, we just had the Canadian election, and now Alberta's people are like, oh, we need to separate from Canada now and stuff. And it's like, it's not the time to be starting to do that kind of stuff, man. Like, you got to, like, start working together. Something as simple as that. And that's kind of bugged me a little bit. I know Quebec's been saying it for forever. And when you almost turn a blind eye to it, it's just like, yeah, sure, just keep talking, you know.
But then again, I think the simplest thing to do is, like, the best advice I ever got in my life was that if you listen to how much need there is in the world, you'll end up doing nothing. And I think the best thing I can do is, I'm personally not going to change the world, but I can raise my family right and treat my friends well and be kind to animals and just be the best part of my own life that I can be. I can only affect a 8-foot circle around myself.
Right, but the idea of doing it to the best of your ability, and,
right?
You know, the right morals and the right ideas of, because I think sometimes it is tough to hear about what's going on, and like you said, if you took it all in, like, I mean,
you'll just do nothing.
It'll break you right down, kind of thing. Another couple of things I'd like the people to maybe check out if they have time is there's a couple of good YouTube channels, history buffs. He mainly does stuff on, like, the, you know, war movies. He recently just did Dunkirk and that, and talks about the actual history behind the movies. So I think people should check that one out. And there's another one called Simple History, where it's just a real basic, 5 to 7 minute videos of just little stories. One was about the what is it called? The soldier with one eye who liberated an entire village. And it's just like these little stories that maybe have gotten lost in time that he brings back, and it's got little basic animations to it and that. So I think people really need to check that stuff out. Things that'll keep the conversation going and realizing again how good we have it.
Yeah.
When it's all said and done, like, we're doing pretty good.
Yeah. And speaking of nostalgia, there's, if we want to turn people onto something, and the only place you can find this now is online. J.D. Salinger, the author from
Catcher in the Rye, right?
Yeah. So he wrote a short story, and it only appeared in, I want to say, Good Housekeeping in like 50, 60 years ago, maybe more. And it's called A Girl I Knew. And it's about Europe in the war.
Okay.
And basically just Google A Girl I Knew, and it's a short story. It's It's an amazing story about a man looking for a girl. And, in the end, when he goes back to find her, she's just not there. Yeah. But it's amazing. It's not that long of a read. Okay. And it's just about a time that we can't understand.
We take for granted, for sure. Yeah.
So check that out.
You mentioned about your family kind of in Poland and that. Did you see any kind of memorabilia or stuff that to?
Yes and no. Yes. I always wondered in our barn, in the back barn, we had 2 saddles that were unique. They were old hard leather, and they were split down the middle. So like where a normal saddle would have a flat seat, this had a hole. You could put your hand right through it, and it was light, and there was nothing to it. We had 2 of them, and they were from World War II. They were World War II saddles. And my great uncle, like I said, was in the war, and somehow they got over to us. Now I don't know the story behind it. They were just always there.
You still have them?
I don't think so. I have to ask my dad if he had it, or when we sold the farm, if they got rid of them. But
I think that's the one thing people need to make sure they, if possible, is try to hold on to these things as much as possible.
Yeah, for sure.
Any medals. There was a story recently where someone had donated a family's medals to like Goodwill. And then they did some research. They found out who they actually were, and they got them back. So that's pretty great. So those kind of things, that's one, at least a good story in the world finally, right? I think that the idea of just, if you have time to, if you know someone in your area that was involved in the wars, it doesn't have to be World War I or II. I mean, because unfortunately those people are dying off, is sit down with them, talk to them, and keep these stories going.
Yeah, for sure.
You know, I think we, again, take for granted the stuff that these people, these men and women went through, and sometimes it might be good for them to talk about it and help maybe process it a bit. You know,
and one thing that we're always forgetting that I always bring up, you say men and women, but remember at the time that they did this, they were children,
boys and girls, right?
They were kids, man, and. That can you imagine like, even me and you, and when we're a little older, I couldn't imagine at 17, 16 years old, some people even snuck into the military at 15.
That's the crazy thing.
And
that's
they went in there.
That's a good thing to bring up, because back to Band of Brothers, there's an episode in there where they talk about, they like lying of how old they were to get there, because they don't want, my buddy's going, I don't want to not go.
I'm going.
And then there's they show up throughout the series where guys will escape from the hospitals to get back to the front lines.
Yeah.
Like, could you imagine?
Because your friend's there.
Yeah.
Like, that's exactly it. And I'm not going to say I can understand. I am not even 1/10 of the men that those boys were.
Oh, yeah. 100%.
So I don't know what that would be like to be like, I have to go back to the front lines.
Yeah. And that's a good thing to say, like, too, about how, like, they were young. Like, the things that we're going through today, we're so lucky not to have to. But I mean, when 17, 18-year-olds are complaining about not being able to play Fortnite tonight because their Wi-Fi is down, it's just like,
I don't want to hear it.
Come on,
read
man.
a book.
Yeah. Right. I think, again, I really want to reiterate that everybody who hasn't seen Band of Brothers really should watch that one again, and again watch the special features. Thing I wish, that's just me because I love it, I wish there was commentary. If they could have done it where they had a recording with the actual actors and the real soldiers, and then just more of like when they're shooting this shot, oh yeah, the trees were like that, and then, that's where our foxhole was, and I just think there needs to be more of that.
Now, did you watch it on DVD? You said you watched.
I have it on DVD. Remember DVDs?
I'm going to have to borrow that from you. I'd like to watch that series again too. One more show that I want to hit on before we get on to something a little lighter here is that you and I talked about this just in private last week. Is that show that somebody just did? I don't want to say show. They colorized old actual World War II footage.
Yes, Peter Jackson.
Right.
They shall not grow old.
Right.
Or they will not grow old. Something like that.
Yeah,
yes, that is a really great thing. I think people should go check out. Just really, and they did the audio, I think, too. Like they
made it like now.
Yeah. Like they overdubbed it or foleyed it or whatever, and just really hits home of what these men were going through. And that one's World War I believe.
World War I,
was even crazier.
I don't know much about World War I.
Yeah.
It just was. I don't know.
People need to go see in theaters when it comes out. 1917. I don't know if you just saw the trailer for that.
Yes,
we just saw the trailer for that when we went and saw Terminator,
which we're going to get
to because I do want to end on something a little lighter, and we're going to rip that one apart.
Yeah.
But again, just to realize just how insane of a time this was.
Right.
Like the trenches alone, the physical, like just the mathematics, what word I'm looking for, like what they lived in, like physical trenches in the dirt, in the mud, with the like this is just,
and the thing though too that we can't forget is that somewhere on this planet right now, there's people still living like that. There's still such extreme poverty and fear and recklessness going on in these countries that are basically lawless, that it still goes on. Like, you and I are going to get into our nice cars and, play nice guitars later and watch a show.
Well, Big Red's not that nice, but it's nice to me.
It's better than whatever, right? It's still all right.
You're right. We do have it way too easy. So, so that was fun. I think, again, just to reiterate, it is Remembrance Day. We're recording this on, if you know a vet or know someone who's still in service, sit down, shake their hand. They've done more in their lifetime than you ever will, kind of thing.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, they deserve it. So we're going to end on, because we mentioned at the end of our last podcast, we went and saw Terminator.
Dark Fate.
I almost forgot the name of it. It was so bad. Going into it, I had high hopes. I thought, okay, Linda Hamilton, Schwarzenegger, James freaking Cameron's back.
Yeah.
But after seeing it, I don't know how much James Cameron actually had involved with that.
Probably, I don't know, because it was.
Let's start with the good. What did you enjoy about the movie?
I enjoyed Arnold. Like, no matter what, Arnold is almost an institution on himself. He doesn't take himself seriously. He knows it's a movie about robots.
Yep.
And he looks like he's having as much fun being in the movie.
Yep.
And for as much as we're going to rip it apart, it's still visually fun.
Yes.
Yeah.
Some of the best visuals are right off the bat. They do full spoilers. This thing's been out for 2 weeks.
We are spoiling the shit out of this.
They pretty much, I don't want to say retcon, but they pretty much disregard 1 and 2.
Oh, yeah.
Where, so John Connor's made it. Him
Right.
and Sarah Connor are some beach somewhere, and they're living the high life. And then in walks another Terminator, like broad daylight, and just tears him down, shoots him right in the back. It's done. Over. John Connor's now dead.
And that's where, sorry to interrupt, but that's where it gets me, is that the whole number 2 movie was John Connor running from Terminators.
Yeah.
And this fucking Terminator walks into
Out
a
of
bar and
nowhere.
shoots him.
Comes out of nowhere, kills him, it's dead, it's over. So then the idea of the movie is Sarah Connor is now living in this world where there are other Terminators. So they established later on that they didn't send just one T-800 back. They kept sending a bunch back. She gets these text messages from somebody saying, hey, a T-800 is going to arrive at this location at this time. Go kill it. That's her life now.
Yep.
We then jump back to our new characters who are living in Mexico somewhere. And I don't know why they had to be Mexican. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing. It's just there's subtitles involved, and it's hard. Sometimes it takes me out of it a little bit when I have to read the movie.
Right.
You know, is what she's saying very important? Maybe that's on me. I should learn Spanish, I guess. But I thought the main actress was annoying as hell.
Yeah, me too. I didn't get into her at all.
There's a really frustrating scene where we're established that her and her brother work at some mechanical factory. You see in the trailers when they have the big fight with the sledgehammers. Her dad is a nice dad who's, he's sick or something. So make sure you take your pills, Dad. Love you, all that fun stuff. Here's your lunches. Kids, I packed your lunches. And then the dad shows up at the factory. Spoilers, it's not the dad. Right. It's the bad Terminator who now, because he touched you,
he
can look
shift.
like, which was a cool idea.
It was cool.
I agree with that. That'll be in the good sandwich part. And then there's a scene where the lady Terminator from not Terminator. She's a
enhanced human, right?
Comes and starts fighting the dad to save the kids. And there's a shot where she smacks the dad in the face, and so all the skin comes off, and there's clearly a robot underneath it. But the daughter is still like, no, I need to save my dad. Dad, are you? And it's like, it is obviously not your dad. Like, pay attention. This woman is trying to save your life here. It's just like the logic things.
Yeah.
Just piss me off.
Right. And all through the movie is riddled with this kind of, like, afterwards I thought about it, and like, we only have a few minutes here, but I could pick this thing apart.
Yeah.
And I think the most absurd part for me was that scene where they finally run into Carl / Arnold / Terminator.
Right.
And he's living with a Mexican lady and her son. And it's because you said it right off the bat in the theater. Didn't she notice that he weighs like 500 pounds?
Right.
And the very next line in the movie was, didn't your wife know that you weigh 400 pounds?
If you have to like make absurd reasons why your movie is your movie, maybe you should have made it differently. Right.
And then Arnold goes and says, well, our relationship's not physical. I'm just like, okay, well, now. And
then, so that brings up the point of, so he was not the original Terminator, obviously, because he got melted down.
Right.
He's another one that got sent back, but he is the one that shot John.
Right.
But somehow, through the magic of robots, it now feels, and it felt bad. So he is the one sending Sarah Connor the destinations and stuff to kill all the other Terminators.
Right.
Because he grew a conscience.
And they
clearly set up in number 1 that he's a robot.
Right.
They don't feel. They don't whatever. Nope. They somehow do.
And the amazing thing is that in any of the movies ever, did it explain that the hair, skin, and the muscle tone ages? Because obviously Arnold's 76 in this movie, or whatever he is,
And it's there's just so many little things, and I think by the end of it, both of us were pretty much just laughing at this movie.
We were,
because there's a scene. It's in the trailer too, where the planes fly into each other, so they jump out in a Humvee on a thing that falls onto, I think it's Hoover Dam. It's a dam of some sort.
A dam, and then
it gets washed down Hoover Dam, underwater. No, everyone's fine.
Yes.
It's just like the stuff of like, oh, that person's clearly dead.
Right.
Nope.
We couldn't survive it.
Yeah. And it's just like, my eyes got sore from rolling them so hard.
I've been in a head-on collision on Preston Avenue that was less traumatic than that Humvee falling from an airplane, and I still was busted up for at least a couple weeks.
And it's so, it just gets ridiculous, and it just goes on, and it like, yes, okay, if you want to take it as an action movie, fine, but at a certain point, and I bring this up when I rent people like DJ lights, you only have so much. After a while, it just becomes noise. Yeah. And that's what this movie became. It's like, there's cool action, but man, I'm glossed over. I have I've checked out.
I thought about 2 days after the movie, I was just thinking about it, it's almost the exact same storyboard as the very first movie. Terminator comes chasing someone down.
Yep. Good person
shows up, fights, and of course at the end the human wins.
Yeah, it's not a complicated story.
No.
It should have ended at 2, but of course, money.
Sure.
They tried, oh crap, what is there now? So there was number 3, which was I think a continuation, and then there was Salvation, which took place in the future.
And that was with Christian Bale, yeah.
So at least they tried something different with that one.
Yeah.
But of course they had to shovel Arnold in there.
They have to have Arnold in it. But he was the governor, so he couldn't have been in that one, right?
It's possible.
He said that on Howard Stern's show. He said they asked him, why weren't you in the Terminator sequels? He says, well, I couldn't. I was the governor for 8 years, I think.
Fair enough.
So, yeah.
And then I remember, it's a terrible movie. And then it ends with they finally beat the bad robot.
Right.
The girl sacrifices the lady humanoid thing.
Yep.
Pulls out her power supply in her stomach. Oh no, the girl has to do it. Just like cut it out of her.
I know.
And it was like, oh, come on. And then that blows up the bad robot. And then the Mexican and Sarah Connor visit the past enhanced person.
Right.
Right, because she's still technically alive.
Yes.
And she's at school, and I thought, it would have been a great, I'm sure a spoof movie will do this, but they see the girl, she's coming around her parents' SUV, and Sarah Connor and the Mexican girl are driving away, and I'm like, they're going to hit her.
Yeah.
They're gonna kill the daughter, and it's gonna start all over again. And I was waiting for it, like almost comical. Like there's an Annabelle creation movie that came out recently.
Oh, I remember that. Yeah,
where the girl runs out to catch like a bolt or something, gets smoked by a truck. I'm like, oh my god, they're gonna do this, and it's gonna fade to black. And I'm sure a spoof movie will do it. But it was just like I was expecting that kind of badness from the movie at that point because I had checked out.
The whole thing was bad, and the one thing I don't get is like wrap it up already. Yes. Give us a definitive answer of what happens in the future, because technically couldn't you just keep sending Terminators back forever,
right?
Just further and further back, or 1 second before the last one went back. Make a short movie, a TV thing, half an hour YouTube video. Tell us how this fucking ends. Right?
Call it quits, be done with it, and just have like an interview with James Cameron. Just being like, that's it, we're done, no more.
This is what would have happened.
And I'll be like, all right, I'm in.
It's like they're making another Jurassic Park movie. Come on, we've seen 5 of them already that know.
At no point having dinosaurs on this world is a good idea. Stop doing it.
Stop. So, now, I'm not saying don't go see Terminator Dark Fate, but have a couple drinks. Don't drink, kids.
Yeah.
But have a shot.
In the safety of your Uber home or the safety of your home. This would be a fun movie if you had a bunch of people over and just made fun of it. Had fun of the ridiculousness of it. Sure. Yeah. Do that. But if we had to give this thing out of stars, 1.5 stars out of 5.
1.5 because Arnold's still Arnold, no matter what.
And the de-aging CGI at the very beginning was really good.
Yeah, the technology's awesome. Like Edward Furlong.
Yeah, wasn't even there, but man, it
looked exactly like him.
Yep.
And they even made Sarah Connor look young again.
Yeah. So there is a couple good things in it.
Another thing that's going to make you feel a little weird in the movie is Linda Hamilton's face.
Oh,
wow, is she leathery?
She's aged hard.
Yeah, time's not been good.
Yeah, so they could have used a little more CGI. They probably spent all their money before that, but hey, good on her for trying. She was the badass in the movie. She was popping her shoulder in. Oh, yeah, she dislocates her shoulder, pops it in. Yeah, she's fine. Yeah, no big deal. It's just easy.
I know.
It's not quite how it works.
Yeah, but you know what, guys? Go see it. Have some fun. Don't expect anything from it. And if you've seen 1 and 2, you've seen this one too.
Right.
Yeah.
So there we go. So that's how we're going to end the episode. Again, everybody should hug a veteran, shake a hand of a veteran, and respect what they've done for all of us. And we
man.
are in a great world because of it. But also don't turn a blind eye to what is going on
everywhere else.
If like you said, in your 8-foot circle, try to make this world a better place.
Yeah, and just have a good day. That's the least we can do.
Yep.
Yeah, man.
All right, boys. See you guys next time.
Later, man.
Bye.